Get a few more people signing in here. We do have a little bit of a format tonight, so I'm going to ask you to look at your name badge, and make sure you're at the right table. This group up here is table 1. That group back there is, I can't see that far, table 2, and this is table 3. So if you're at the wrong table, I would ask that you get up and attend to the right table. You are not going to lose out on any of the content. You are going to get the same content at whatever table you sit at. We're just going to have facilitators rotating amongst the group. So I would ask that anybody with a 1 come up here and join one of these sides here. All right, so we're going to get started here because I do want to keep us on a time frame. This meeting is scheduled from 7:30 to 9:30. You probably have a copy of the agenda, so it is very structured. If you didn't get a copy of the agenda, we've got them at the table out there. We can pass them out. I'd like to introduce some people that are here this evening that's going to participate in the facilitation of this focus group. I have Mark Denny, our police chief, Frank Cook, our fire chief, Dan Malloy, our director of public safety, Tawana Moulter is running down the hallway, Tim Lang is our director of public services, and Frank Birkenhauer is our economic development director and assistant administrator. My name's Jim Rowan, I'm administrator. I want to thank you all for giving up your time and coming out here this evening to talk about this very important matter. I'm sure there are a lot of opinions and thoughts as to what we need to do to address the funding issues facing our parks, our community center, and our roads. You'll notice that there are no members of the board here tonight or the fiscal officer. That's on purpose. This is a meeting held by the administrator. It's a meeting that I've opened up to the public. There will be no minutes held at this meeting, although I do have Waycross here videotaping this meeting. For those that weren't able to make it, they can go back and view the comments. What we're going to try and accomplish tonight is some insight on what the next steps we should take as a township. So I'm going to spend a few minutes going through a presentation just to try to share some of the things that have changed over the past 5 years. But in doing so, I want to make sure we have some ground rules for tonight. Number 1, be respectful. Don't judge somebody else's comment. We're not going to have a debate tonight on whether we think something should happen or something should not happen. That'll happen at a later date when this is presented to the board and we make some decisions on how we're going to address the future. Clarifying questions are welcomed. And finally, all options will be considered. So to just kind of give you an idea of what this is going to look like, for about the next 20 minutes, I'm going to go through some slides here, and I'm going to share some things with regards to the senior center, our parks, and our roads. Each of you are broken up in a group for a reason. Tawana Moulter is going to be facilitating the group to talk about senior center. Tim Lang is going to be talking to the group about our roads, and Frank Birkenhauer is going to be talking to the group about parks. I'm going to be walking around the room, just kind of listening. Chief Denny, Chief Cook, and Director Malloy is also here to assist where possible. When you have your small breakout sessions, after you've heard this presentation, what we want to hear from you is, what do you think we ought to do? And I'm just going to throw a couple scenarios. Should we close the parks? I don't think we should, and I hope many of you here don't think we should either, because our vision in this township is to deliver excellence to a best-in-class community. I don't believe you can be best in class without a robust park system, a senior citizen center to serve your community, and a road program that addresses public infrastructure. But you're going to see some of the difficult decisions we've had to make tonight, and we need some direction as to what the next steps are. So you've got sticky notes in front of you, and each of those sticky notes correspond to a color. I don't remember what the color is, it's on your note, but yellow is for one of the groups, blue and pink. So when Tawana comes to this table and she facilitates the conversation on seniors, you're going to pick the appropriate colored notepad and you're going to write down what would you like to see happen with this center? Do you want to see programs brought back? Be as specific as you want to be. During that 20-minute timeline, we're going to take all those notes and we're going to stick them up on a wall, probably over here. And then we're going to go to that group, and we're going to rotate so that at the end of the night, we're going to have a group of blue sticky notes, pink sticky notes, and yellow sticky notes. One's going to represent parks, community center, and roads. Those are going to be all of your ideas. It could be from closing a park to asking for a park levy to adding additional programs, bring back the 4th of July, cancel the Taste of Colerain. Whatever's on your mind, it can go on a sticky note. And then you're going to be given a sticky dot. Each person is going to get 4 green dots to be able to vote on the top 4 things that you see in every area. So you'll get a vote, 4 things on parks, 4 things on roads, 4 things on senior center. Then when that voting process is done, we're going to take all the sticky notes that have a dot on them, even if it has 1 dot, and we're going to place them on one wall, and you're going to have a color combination of blue, pink, and yellow, and you're going to be given 4 yellow dots to vote on what your top 4 is of that entire list. And then we're going to rank and prioritize every comment that was made, how it got a vote, and what the vote structure looked like. That, along with the survey that was conducted by NKU, will be presented to the board probably sometime around July 7th, which is the next board meeting, for a conversation piece and to help guide us in what the next step should be to address funding for our roads, our parks, and our community center. One of the reasons I was running late, and we have a number of members here from the Colerain Financial Advisory Committee, is we just met to adopt a tax budget for 2016. If you look at the budget for our consolidated roads, which is parks, community center, senior center, and roads, we are bankrupt in 2017. We have to find a solution. And the only way we're going to do that is together. And that's why I thought this focus group was very important, is to bring various segments of the community in so that we can hear what you had to say, take that message back to the board, and develop next steps to address those concerns. So I'm going to run through this presentation, and then we'll have a brief opportunity to ask any clarifying questions with each facilitator. Rather than do it as a large group and waste a lot of time, we're going to do it at the small group facilitation. So if you see something as I'm going through here on the senior center that you have a question, write it down, and then when the facilitator gets to your table, that person will clarify what the point was made. So as we look at our senior center, thinking back to 2010 and where we are today, and I will be glad to put this presentation out online so anybody can go download it, because I know it's going to be difficult to see for many of you. But back in 2010, we had a full-time director, a full-time program coordinator, an administrative assistant, a Title III service provider, and a transportation driver, as well as 3 part-time custodians to support this senior center up here. In 2015, we're down to 1.5 people. We have an events coordinator that's shared with parks, and we have a custodian that's shared with parks that helps do setup and tear down. We also have a contracted program coordinator that is now through the YMCA that assists us with our Council on Aging program. In 2010, our membership fee was $5. Membership fees now are $20 a year for residents and $30 for non-residents. We no longer have a full-time arts and crafts instructor. There's no more evening classes open to the entire community, and the evening special events such as dances, holiday events have all been cut. Wrong way. Some of the programs and services that have been cut include arthritis exercise, bowling, chair volleyball, we play, movie matinee, bunco, health rhythms, drumming, book club, computer classes, massage therapy, informational speakers, Zumba, instructor-led Tai Chi, Pilates, flu shots, immunization clinics for children, tax assistance, and home-delivered meals. We've also cut watercolor painting, oil painting, porcelain painting, ceramics, stained glass, stamping, scrapbooking, and jewelry making. Talked about Zumba, line dancing, Lego camp for kids, yoga, Fit Spod, youth karate, and Fit Chicks. In 2010, the budget to operate this center was $541,000. Today, it's $145,000. That's how many cuts we've made to this center. We do not have adequate staffing, especially in the janitorial area. Our grounds maintenance and landscaping is suffering. We are no longer proactive in dealing with maintenance issues. We deal with them as they come up. We don't have a planned maintenance program because we don't have the money. We have a need to replace some damaged and worn out equipment, and we just don't have money for upgrades to keep it marketable. Some of the positive changes. In 2010, we had 34 rentals. In 2014, we had 87. In 2015, through the end of May, we have 70. Tawana has done a great job of bringing revenue sources in because the rentals that we use over in Hall A in the community center is what allows us to keep the senior center open. However, without basic maintenance and preventive repairs to the interior and exterior, it's going to negatively impact the rentals in the future. So we've got to be able to protect that source. In March of 2015, we partnered with the Clifford YMCA. Well, why did we do that? Well, the Clifford YMCA is in the business. They actually provide services to seniors. So you've got this YMCA providing services and we're providing services. So it gave us an opportunity through a shared service partnership to try to combine some services, bring their staff in, their expertise in, save some money, and enhance the services for our seniors. And we're going to evaluate that program at the end of this year. That contract expires next February, and we'll reevaluate to see whether we proceed in 2016. Right now, I have included it in the budget for 2016, but I do want an opportunity to evaluate it and get some feedback on its success. Some of the other things that we've done up here, senior party and our casino trip. So let's shift gear to parks. Up until 2011, when the state budget, the state legislature cut us $1.5 million, a lot of decisions had already been made to invest in our park system. We have one of the most robust park systems in Hamilton County, and we should be very proud of that. Unfortunately, we don't have the money to maintain the park systems. We have 11 parks and 232 acres. Clifford, Colerain Heritage Memorial, Drew Campbell, Groesbeck, Heritage, Meehan. Actually, Meehan has now been given back to Hamilton County as a result of budget cuts. No longer maintaining it, we gave it back to the county. Dravo, Palm Park, Skyline Community Center and Park is up for sale. If you don't know that already, that's one of those other issues as a result of budget cuts. And Wirt Park. In 2005, we had 9 full-time employees in the parks, 14 seasonal, and 6 day camp counselors. Now we have 4 full-time, a part-time admin assistant, a shared custodian, 15 seasonal workers that we have to use to staff and collect parking permit fees, and also maintain our spray ground and some maintenance of our bathrooms in the parks, and 4 seasonal maintenance workers. In 2005, we were improving and expanding our parks. We were building new playgrounds. We had a free summer camp, Friday entertainment, movie concerts, 4th of July, Taste of Colerain, Easter egg hunts. Our shelter rentals for residents were $70. For non-residents, they were $85. Our soccer fields were free, and our baseball fields were $200. In 2015, we had the Taste of Colerain. We still do our summer concerts, our summer movies. We now charge for admittance in the park, a $10 pass for an annual fee. Shelter rentals are now $135 for residents, $225 for non-residents. Soccer fields are $150 for recreation, $180 for select, and baseball fields are $375 and $425 for grass infields. In 2010, our parks budget was $1.4 million. Today, it's $433,000. If you drive into our parks, you're going to see weeds, you're going to see tall grass, you're going to see things not maintained in the pristine condition that we have always cherished. And I'll tell you, it's a very difficult decision when I meet with our parks employees because they take a lot of pride in what they do, and I have to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't give you resources, you're just going to have to do with what you have. And that means you have to prioritize, and that means we're going to have long grass, and we're going to have weeds on our fences. Our staffing and maintenance at all the parks is suffering as a result of inadequate resources. Without a long-term funding solution, our parks will be forced to close. There is no doubt about it. There's not going to be an option. I have a map in this presentation of where our parks are. I'm not going to get into all these details, but every slide here talks about what's included in the park. From a mega land to a basketball court to a volleyball court to playgrounds to baseball fields and soccer fields. You go to Heritage, you got a Frisbee golf course, you've got a river. We have got a phenomenal park system. You'll notice Kevin Schwartz not here tonight. Kevin's been our parks director. Kevin was a great parks planner. Unfortunately, as a result of budget cuts, we had to reduce his position. His last day was last Friday. Good news for Kevin is he's now a consultant, I believe, with Butler Metro Parks. I think that's where he went. So he's going to be able to use his expertise in another community. I'm really glad for him. But there's a lot of information here on our parks. Once again, I'll make this presentation available to you for review, but it takes a lot of money and resources to maintain this. And I know I've heard comments made, well, why did the board invest all this money in parks? Well, when the decisions were made to expand the parks, and we're still paying debt on some of these parks, we had no idea the state was going to take the estate tax and cut our local government fund in half. So that's $1.5 million that we lost as a result of the state action that dramatically impacts this township. So, roads. Unlike the senior center and the parks, which I would hope everybody in this room would argue is a good quality of life program, parks and a senior center is not a core function of township government. The core function of township government is public safety, police, fire, EMS, and roads. And right now, if you drive through this township, whether you're on a county road, a state road, or a township road, there is a great need for public infrastructure improvements. And one of the reasons that we're combining this conversation this morning, or this evening, is because I think that there's probably a lot of different interest in this group as to where your priorities are. I see a young man sitting here who I think probably has used our parks before and would hate to see the parks close. I see seniors here that probably use this center. I know there are people that live on township streets. There are people that live on county roads. So you may say, well, I live on a county road. Why do I want to fund a road levy for township streets? I would argue that if we have a funding source to address public infrastructure, it would allow me to do like Green Township's doing and provide a matching grant with Hamilton County to pave our county roads, a partnership with ODOT to fix some of our state highways. I look at this as a global township issue, not just a township street issue. As you look at the roads, and you may have heard this from a neighbor, and I'm going to be very clear when I get to the budget here, we collect about $1.8 million from the state from 4 major sources of revenue for our roads department. Somebody once told me, well, why don't you just take $1.5 million of that 1.8 and go out there and resurface roads? That $1.8 million pays for salt, maintenance, drivers, the people that remove your snow in the wintertime, the people that mow the right-of-ways, that clean out the culverts, and you're going to see some pretty staggering statistics here. We have 9,000 street signs in this township that we have to maintain. You can't do that without a staff. You have 112 street miles, 43 square miles, or 480 streets. Even though I don't have money to resurface, we're still sealing, fixing potholes, removing snow, maintaining our streets. We have 350 cul-de-sacs. We have to maintain our storm sewers. We have right-of-way, permits, mowing, tree removal, guardrail maintenance. 3,351 catch basins that have to be cleaned out to make sure that water is flowing. That can't happen without a staff. And we have 9 snow routes. I talked a little bit ago about our park staffing. As you look at our roads department, we had 15 full-time and 2 part-time and 5 seasonals in our road department in 2010. Now we have 10 full-time, and we're soon to have 9 effective August 1 of 15 because I had a retirement come up. That person's not going to be replaced. I'm budgeting that position for some future revenue source, but we're not filling any positions that retire or resign until we figure out how to solve this problem. We still have grinding and patching pavements, partial depth repair, full depth pavement repairs, surface treating, landscape mulching, post painting in subdivisions, litter pickup, skip funding, matching funds for major projects. All these things, a lot of them has already been eliminated. We no longer treat our fields. We don't treat or we don't do the litter pickup that we used to. So our road and our public infrastructure is deteriorating just like our parks. So our current challenges, the average age of our paved service is 25 years. Our pavement condition index Now, Tim can get into more detail when he sits down at your table as to what that means, but basically it's a rating scale on how they grade your streets. Colerain is a 41, or if you think about an ABCDE or ABCDF report card, we're a D right now. We need to pave at least 4.36 miles a year or $1.3 million to somewhat try to address an upward swing in our resurfacing plan. In 2015, we're going to do less than a half mile at $375,000. We also got $325,000 in a community development block grant that can be used in low-income neighborhoods. We have no matching funds for skip grants. A skip grant, we can get into more detail, but basically it's a total tear out all the way down and resurfacing all the way from gravel up. Those projects are usually about $1.5 million. The township would pledge 30% and we'd get a state grant. We have no matching funds available. We have aging equipment. We just went through the capital budget request. I recommended no capital budget items for our roads and our parks department because once again, we don't have a funding source. We need to maintain current staffing even though we have declines in state funding. And it's important to maintain our snow routes. Even with 9 snow routes, we get calls in the wintertime about our streets not getting as cleaned as fast as people would like them. I think our guys do a great job. But imagine if we don't find a solution to offset our 2017 problem and we have to start stretching those routes longer and longer and longer. I talked a little bit ago about the $1.8 to $2 million in revenue. In 2010, we received $2.1 million, almost 2.2 from these sources of revenue. In 2015, we're slightly below that due to some state changes and cuts. But once again, all that money is used to pay for repairs, contract service, supplies and materials, vehicle equipment, salaries and fringe benefits, utilities, property liability insurance, everything it takes to operate your parks and your road department without resurfacing. So, in a nutshell, when you think about non-safety, don't think about public safety, police, fire, and EMS. Just think about non-safety. As a township, we manage probably close to 25 different funding sources. If you looked at my investment statement, you would see that we have invested about $19 million in the bank. You might say, if you got $19 million in the bank, why aren't you using it to fix our roads? The majority of that funding is restricted. You can't use it for things like roads. Restricted for police, restricted for fire, restricted for this and that. So our discretionary funding is limited. When you think about non-safety, I think about, well, what is the value to the community? Not necessarily what's the cost to the community, what's the value to the community? Everybody in this room values things differently. I may value a senior program or a park program, or I'd like to have my streets repaired. Now, we already talked that roads are a core fundamental purpose of township government, and ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to have to address it at whatever cost that is. But I would say, and I hope that most of you feel this way, that our senior center and our parks does bring value to the community. It brings value to your property values. As you look at the entire community as a whole, those are valuable functions of the township. I talked about the roads being made up of township streets, county roads, and state highways. We have to figure out a solution to maintain our public infrastructure. Up until 2001, we had a $1 mil road levy to resurface roads. It's my understanding that sometime around that 2001 timeframe, it was proposed to increase that millage to get ahead of the road infrastructure program. I think they might have asked for 2 mils and it failed. As a result, we lost the $1 mil levy, and since 2001, we've not had a dedicated funding source for roads. The general fund was used up until 2011 when the state cut the budget, and since then, we've been putting a little bit of money here and there toward that. In November of 2014, we proposed a 1% JED, a Joint Economic Development Zone. I'm not here to debate the merits of the issue. I will tell you that it was a unique way to generate funding without taxing the residents. It failed miserably. As a result of that, the JEDZ legislation is no longer an option. That legislation ended December 31st of 2014, so you can no longer consider that as an option. So we are in a funding crisis. We've lost $1.6 million, $60,000 in TPP for the road, but the rest of it pretty much impacted the general fund, which is what we've been using to sustain our parks, our senior center, and our resurfacing program. As I said earlier, in 2010, our senior budget was $540,000. Today it's $145,000. Our parks was $1.4 million. Today it's $433,000. Our road budget was $1.9 million. Today it's $2.2 million. We are spending more money because it costs more to buy salt, to buy fuel. Those are still costs that take to maintain our roads. And when I say roads, I'm not talking about resurfacing. I'm talking about sealing, patching, catch basins, signs, all those things. So tonight, our goal is, what options do we have? As a member of this community, what option do you see viable going forward? I want you to be honest. I want you to be as to the point as possible. If you think a park should be closed and there's a particular park you want to close, write it on your sticky note. If you think I should lay off all 10 people in the road department and not remove snow anymore, write it down. There's no dumb question. Put it down on paper so we can get it up on the board and have a conversation. There are options. I don't think there are very good options. We could close this center. We could sell this center, just like we're doing the Skyline Community Center. And you know, Skyline Community Center was a very difficult decision, but ultimately, at the end of the day, 70% of the people using the Skyline Community Center were Springfield Township residents. So once again, the Colerain residents are subsidizing a center that is primarily used by another government. It's a tough decision. We could close parks. That becomes a little more difficult, but if we have to put fences up in front of the parks and let the grass grow long, I would hate to see us have to do that. But I can reallocate staff, or I can lay staff off and not maintain those parks if we have to do that. I don't think it's a good option, but it's an option. We talked about reducing staff. JEDZ is no longer an option. We continue to go to Columbus and lobby for more money. We have spent, I've been here almost 4 years. In the 4 years I've been here, we've done nothing but grind cost, spend money, or reduce money as much as possible. Our employees have taken 4 years of pay freezes. They pay 20% of health care. I'm proud of them for doing that. There's no other government around sacrificing as much of the employees here. We no longer have a step system. Usually in the government sector, you come in at step one, and over the next 7 years, you grow. We don't here. You come in at step one, you're frozen except for a probationary level. Our employees have stepped up and addressed real cost issues. Trustee Ritter and I went to Columbus to meet with the leadership, and we gave them a whole presentation on Colerain. The governor has asked us to model cuts and shared services. We've done it. We've delivered. What are you going to do for us? Instead, this biennial budget that's being presented, they're going to cut another $47,000 from us. Why don't you reward a township or a government that's taken the steps to address spending like we are? If you don't want to increase our operating budget, I get that. But give us some one-time money. Give me a check for $1.5 million and let me go repave some roads. Don't just do things for communities that aren't addressing their spending. We have some other options. These are going to be very unpopular, but they're options. We could do a parks levy. We could do a senior levy. We could do a roads levy. Or we could do a combination levy. Something that we could generate funding to be able to put money toward our senior center, our parks, and our roads. I pledged to the board 4 years ago when they hired me I would not ask for a levy until I felt the budget was aligned to the degree that any further deterioration would dramatically impact the quality of life in Colerain. And I believe that's where we are today. So at this point in time, my facilitators are going to take a table. Frank, why don't you go to that table? Tawana, you want to come up here? And Tim, you can take that table. If you have specific questions about the topic that they're going to cover, ask them. Ask for clarification. But your assignment now is to take the appropriate colored sticky note, and feel free to pass them around, and start to put down options based on what you've heard today. If you were to go to the trustees and recommend a solution, what do you think they should do? and start writing them down. And I'll be going around as you write them down. We'll be putting them on the outside of the table. I'm going to pick them up and I'm going to stick them on a wall. In 20 minutes, we're going to switch tables. The facilitators are going to move to another table until we get all 3 groups done. And then we're going to break open and start to take the votes. So thanks for your attention, and I'll be wandering the room and asking or answering any questions you may have. Make this next process a little bit quicker. I need to have my team start to gather the dots. We're going to put them in priority order. If there's a slip that doesn't have a dot, it will remain for now, but I promise you I will gather that and it will get on the final list. We're going to rank the various slips with the most number of dots at the top to the bottom, and I'm going to dismiss you by groups. You can go over, you have 4 votes, you can place it on whatever items you want over there. Try not to cover up the reading or what's been written, so I can at least decipher that at the end. If you need to put your dot on the white block next to it, that's fine. Go ahead and space them far enough, guys, that we can put dots around the comments. We're going to try to get out of here as soon as we can. I appreciate your patience. Everybody gets 4 yellow dots, and you'll be able to vote those 4 yellow dots in just a second. group right here. You got 4 yellow dots. Please move as quickly as you can. You can vote however you want on your final 4 dots. When you're done, thank you very much for your time. And just, I will email out the results. I'll put them on the website. It'll be communicated at the July 7th board meeting to the board. Once again, we will list every comment as long as I can read it. And I will put the ranking order that they were voted on tonight. But thank you so much. I will tell you the next steps in this process will be a conversation with the board. If and when we choose, if we ever choose to go proceed with some sort of a tax issue, we're going to need people to spread the message. I've got your contact information. The only way we can get something done is if we do it together. So I'm going to need all of your help to get the message out there. Thanks again for coming, and cast your votes, and thank you very much.